Major changes to the naming of government facilities. New rates of pay and conditions of work for employees in the tourism sector. Renewed concern about exploitation of the elderly. And in sports, Barbadians expressed pride in Shade Williams' performance today at the Olympics.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Boeing. Barbadian track star Shade Williams has placed a commendable 7th in the 400 meters finals at the Paris 2024 Olympics with a time of 49.83. Scores of Barbadians had their eyes glued to televisions and other devices to watch her performance, among them the folks here at the CBC, including our own Anne-Marie Burke. Anne-Marie, good evening to you. Tell us about the race.
Good evening to you, Pearson. Well, despite that 7th place finish, it was historic, as Williams is actually the first Bajan woman to make an Olympic track final in what was also the fastest women's 400-meter final in the history of the Games, with almost all athletes running under 50 seconds. Now, Shade, ahead of the 2 p.m. start of the race, scores of Barbadians gathered at various watch parties to catch a glimpse of the historic moment, answering a call from Prime Minister Mia Motley, who praised Shade for her efforts at the Olympics.
Thank God for Shade and for the effort that she made in becoming the first woman ever from Barbados to participate in the athletics finals.
Now, here at CBC for our own Shade Watch, her former coach Roman Armstrong said her performance augurs well for the sport as a whole.
Anne-Marie, thank you. What a day it is indeed. Well, government is taking the sole responsibility of naming national facilities away from politicians. Prime Minister Mia Motley made that announcement today as she delivered remarks at the opening of the Leroy Trotman Customs House, the new home of the Customs Office. Ms. Motley says the National Honours Committee will soon be tasked with the responsibility of considering and recommending to Cabinet the naming of public buildings and properties. Meanwhile, Ms. Motley is warning customs officers to be wary of customers seeking to cheat the system. And the delighted Sir Roy Trotman, who was joined by relatives and friends, says he's thankful for the fitting honour bestowed upon him while he is still alive. Of course, we'll hope to have that story a little later on. The new state-of-the-art facility will be made possible for all the divisions in the Customs Department to be housed under one roof. The Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Kirk Humphreys, says financial exploitation of the elderly is on the increase. He was speaking as the lower house considered a resolution to take note of the 2023 to 2028 National Policy on Aging.
We've also seen an increase in domestic and regional reports of elder abuse, sir. And I look forward to bringing that legislation here very soon, sir, that will address it, sir, particularly as it relates to financial exploitation, elderly bank fraud, elderly land, property, and asset theft. Sir, because, you know, it is a pity, but it is what it is, that the vast majority of cases that we are dealing with in relation to elder abuse is family. It is often a son, a daughter, a brother or sister who is attempting to take advantage of the elderly, sir.
Mr. Humphrey also shared the findings of a situational analysis which identifies a number of strengths and weaknesses. The weaknesses include an inadequate supply of home and community care services for the elderly.
We brought on 432 workers, sir, to help the elderly, sir. So if we brought on 432 and we still do not have enough, you could only imagine what existed before. So they found an increasing demand, sir, against the limited supply of services because, and this is bound to happen, sir, because the population is getting older. The population is getting older, there are less people caring for the elderly, the role of the state has to change, the burden of care now becomes the state's responsibility. So essentially, sir, it means that we are always going to be playing catch up unless the people in Barbados, sir, the families, sir, have to take on some of this work too. It is going to be impossible for every person who is over 65 in need of care to have a home health worker.
Opposition leader Ralph Thorne, in his brief presentation, did not raise any objections but expressed his thanks to those who contributed to the policy, including the Barbados Association of Retired Persons.
I join Minister, member for St. Michael South, in expressing appreciation to all these who have toiled in the vineyard to ensure that adult and elderly life is comfortable. I suppose I will they may accept my application to BART at some point. My applications are not always easily acceptable, but I hope BART, I hope BART will accommodate me with less trauma.
Meanwhile, Minister of Industry, Innovation, Science and Technology, Marcia Cadell, is stressing the importance of good health for older people. She says it's something that requires consideration and action long before people reach that stage of their life. For example, she says nutrition plays a critical part in maintaining good health, and while government will do all that it can to assist in that regard, there should be greater discussion about people's nutritional intake.
As a government, we will continue to invest in finding ways to make natural, healthful food more affordable. That is a commitment that we have made and we continue to make. But similarly, I also think that there is a role to be played by those institutions of the state and others who are leading the conversation on nutrition. It is movement as well, but I'll tell you this. You can't run a bad diet.
Government has moved to establish minimum rates of pay and conditions of work for employees in the tourism sector. Some of the new rules were outlined by Labour Minister Colin Jordan as he delivered a ministerial statement in Parliament today. Minister Jordan says in recent times there has been a palpable air of dissatisfaction in the relationship between some employers and workers in that sector. He notes that a number of establishments are no longer party to the collective agreement between the Barbados Workers Union and the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association. After a number of stakeholder meetings last year failed to reach agreement on the language of minimum terms and conditions, government has now stepped in. Minister Jordan revealed the new minimum conditions include a requirement for work schedules to be written, posted and communicated to workers no less than 48 hours before the start of the work week.
Where an employer requires that a distinctive uniform is to be worn by an employee, and in the industry we refer to distinctive as something other than a black bottom and a white top, at least 3 changes of uniform shall be provided to the employee on an annual basis by the employer at no cost to the employee. Where an employee is required to work beyond 12 o'clock midnight, the employer shall provide for the employee transportation to his or her home.
Minister Jordan also revealed the new weekly rates of pay.
Receptionists in an A-class establishment, $399.53. A waiter in a luxury establishment, $447.33. A storeroom attendant in an A-class establishment, $369.19. A general cook in a B-class establishment, $340. These are all based on the existing collective agreement. They could be subject to further adjustments based on the outcome of current negotiations between the BHTA and the BWU.
On the heels of that ministerial statement, General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Tony Moore, has a message for employers in the tourism sector. She's reminding them they must now follow the collective agreement if they are to benefit or continue benefiting from concessions.
Why it is exciting for us in the union is that the collective agreement which has stood the test of time for over 60 years. The collective agreement is what has been used to develop and establish those minimum standards. So it means whether you are in the agreement or not, and you want to benefit from concessions, you must now follow as an employer the collective agreement in order to get the benefits that you are seeking.
Ms. Moore adds her union will not back down from the growing issue of job security and contract work. She notes job security must align with the provision of the collective agreement, which guides contract work for those who sign on to the agreement.
As recently as yesterday, our office was learning that there are over 200 workers in the sector that are facing redundancy from one establishment in the hotels alone. Over 200 workers. And why it's so easy for them to do it is because this is the one establishment that has been undermining every effort of the union to organize the workers. Even when on October 4th last year, we were on the South Coast. So it's the South Coast establishment in St. Lawrence Gap that has not allowed the workers to join so that their discussions can be with the workers.
Now we return to that story about the government taking the sole responsibility of naming national facilities away from politicians. We reminded you that Prime Minister Mia Motley made that announcement today as she delivered remarks at the opening of the Leroy Trotman Customs House, the new home of the Customs Office. Ms. Motley says the National Honours Committee will soon be tasked with the responsibility of considering and recommending to Cabinet for the naming of public buildings and properties.
We have come as a cabinet equally to a decision that the naming of facilities and institutions should not be an arbitrary exercise and should not be the province of just those who happen to occupy the corridors of political power. And we've therefore asked that the National Honours Committee that exists and that may act only on the eve of honours being conferred at independence, or now with regathering with the Pride of Barbados next year or every month, and that it also take responsibility for consideration and recommendation to Cabinet for the naming of facilities and grounds.
Meanwhile, Ms. Motley is warning customs officers to be wary of customers seeking to cheat the system.
A significant part of government's revenue is collected through this agency, and without which many of whom depend on government for their salary and their capacity to support their families would be in trouble if this agency does not perform at optimum levels.
And a delighted Sir Roy Trotman, who was joined by family and friends, says he's thankful for the fitting honour bestowed upon him while he is still alive.
I did not ask for it. Indeed, I was not told by anybody that this was being done for me until the Minister of the day spoke to the Prime Minister of the day, and they decided, first of all, that they would wish me to serve on the board of Barbados Board.
The new state-of-the-art facility will make it possible for all divisions in the Customs Department to be housed under one roof. Coming up, St. Andrew residents given assurances about road upgrades. Parliamentary Representative for St. Andrew, Dr. Rommel Springer, is assuring constituents that he will continue to do his best to upgrade the road network across the parish. His comments came at the annual general meeting of the branch last evening.
We have done a number of roads. Mount Hillaby we did. We did White Hill. We did Rock Hall. We're doing Franklin Douglas. We did Jordan Road, Belmont Road. We did East Coast. We're doing Boscobel Road, which is Highway B2, the road from Morgan Lewis to Boscobel. We're doing that right now as we speak. We're doing Babylon Road. This is a road that people were crying out at last year, St. Andrew's Street. People were crying out for Babylon Road and Coggins Hill. And I said to the audience then, and I'm glad I can next week or whenever we go down there, I can say to them again that promise made, promise kept.
And appearing as guest speaker, Youth Minister Charles Griffith provided an update on projects being executed by his team, which St. Andrew residents can tap into.
Project Dawn was launched in Belle Plaine with some youngsters on the blocks at Belle Plaine. Over 20 acres of land was provided for those youngsters to be involved in the process. Now, all of us at some point in time may have some struggles and require a second chance to balance your life again. And Project Dawn is doing exactly that in relation to those youngsters who you see lying on the blocks across this country and females who lie across the blocks. We have a block committee in place that their task is to go to every single block in Barbados to interact with those youngsters and to say to them, look, government is providing you with an opportunity to get your life back on track.
As Barbados seeks to improve its national food security, citizens are being assured that land allocated for agriculture will be used for that reason only. It's coming from Acting Chief Agricultural Officer Michael James in response to concerns among Barbadians about agricultural land being cleared for housing projects. Mr. James says while under the Physical Development Plan of Barbados, a certain amount of land has been allocated for agricultural pursuits, the ministry is monitoring what land is going out of and remaining in agriculture. He was addressing the Youth Farm Agribusiness Workshop.
Everything is a give and take. So what happens is there are some lands that are, for want of a better word, that are more rocky, and as you said, it used to grow. But over time, people never used it, they pushed it off, and now it is not land that is claimed or that we put back into agriculture. So what we're doing, we're trying to balance with housing development and other developments with the production of agriculture or engage in the agricultural pursuits. It can be a fine balance, but we are maintaining that there's a certain amount that has been allocated for agriculture.
40 candidates enrolled in the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture Barbados Youth Farm Program, and they participated in the workshop. It is designed to expose them to the business of aspects of the agriculture sector. Technical specialist at ICA, Dr. Roxanne Waith, says the participants will learn presentation skills, etiquette, and who they should go to for financing.
The whole idea behind this session today is to get them out of the technical setting and get them into a frame of mind where they understand that they will have to at some point interact with real people and technical experts and financiers in the agribusiness sector. So we want to show them basic things like etiquette and how to present themselves.
Now, taking a few trips as well as helping family and friends are among the plans of Udine Grisette, who has won close to $200,000. She is the latest winner of the Barbados Lottery Double Draw Spot 7 jackpot, collecting a check of $198,000 this afternoon. The presentation was done at Rubis Service Station in Oistins, Christchurch, where she bought the ticket. Ms. Grisette shared with CBC News what she intends to do with the money.
Oh my God, overjoyed. It's like, words can't express. But God is good. He's in the midst of everything. My plans is to clear some debts. For sure, I'll be taking some trips and help a few family and friends.
It was a great day today for Barbadians and past students of the Coleridge and Parry School. Right, Anne-Marie, good evening.
Good evening to you, Pearson. You must put in Harrison College. If not, they're going to be very upset as well. Right, so Harrison College as well. Well, the pride of Barbados track and field, Sade Williams, finished 7th in the women's 400 meters today at the 33rd Olympiad, as she made history being the first Barbadian female to compete in an Olympic Games track final. Sade was timed at 49.83 seconds at the Stade de France, being part of the fastest ever women's Olympic Games 400-meter event, as Marlady Polino of the Dominican Republic set a new Games record of 48.17 seconds. Bahrain's Eid Sawa Nasser took second in 48.53, while Natalia Kazmarek of Poland was third in 48.98. Now, speaking after the race, Sade said this Olympics was a challenging one. She is a bit disappointed about her performance, but had high praise for winner Marlady Polino.
I just tried to do it best I could from lane 2. I admire Paulino as a fellow athlete. I knew she was going to win the race because she's just a really amazing athlete, and I'm not surprised that she broke the record. Competing, it feels like any other competition I would compete at. It's just, 3 rounds. The Olympic experience, even though Tokyo barely had any people and it was COVID times, I still think Tokyo was my best Olympic experience compared to this one.
Now, grateful Sherna Williams, Sade's mom, says her daughter did her best to make Barbados proud.
I honestly think she was placed in a different lane. She would have placed better. I would honestly believe. Because lane 2, she got her good running from the back. So probably she was placed in a different lane. She would have done better. That's my take on it.
She spoke with CBC Sports outside the headquarters of the Barbados Olympic Association at the Garfield Sobers Sports Complex, where a jubilant crowd had gathered to watch the race. She recalls her last conversation with Sade before the championship race and is praising all who supported her Sade's dream of Olympic glory.
What did she say she was expecting today?
She just said she can leave it. She just said she would leave it on the track. Barbados, thanks for supporting her on her journey. And the best is yet to come.
Now, time paused for Barbadians this evening for about 2 minutes as they watched Sade's historic run. CBC Sports spoke to some of them at the BOA's watch parties.
The race was exciting, right? But Sade did her best. I know she tried really, really hard as she was coming up. Some really great distance runners. But I am proud. What she do, I am very, very, very proud. She back into the final, and that's the greatest achievement. That's all we can ask for. There's nothing more that she can do.
Well, she tried her best. You can see coming on to the end, she was running a bit slow, but still proud. She's the 7th fastest in the world.
That was a historic moment for Barbados, and Sade, we love you. You did us proud being the first woman to make an Olympic 400-meter final. From Barbados to Sade, you are our golden girl.
Great! Sade did great. We were in the finals race. She did great. She did her best.
Well, Pearson, I totally agree, and with that, I pause here for my first half, and I'll return later with more sports.
No, I'm still bristling with the excitement, but thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much. We'll be right back with tonight's business report. In business now, there have been no hiccups with the new digital check exchange protocol in Barbados. The revelation from the new president of the Barbados Bankers Association, Shimon McIntosh. He tells the business report it's still early days.
So before we would have exchanged checks physically, now with the digital check exchange process, checks are being scanned and exchanged electronically. This was launched on August 6th, so it's literally the first week of the digital check exchange being in play. And so far, based on my interaction with the other bank MDs, it's going smooth so far.
Mr. McIntosh says the move is to eventually eliminate checks.
Bank's focus is on I would say, the digital roadmap. So the first part of it was with real-time payments. We would have rolled out real-time payments last year, and so now you can pay another bank customer immediately. The second part to that was the digital check exchange project, which recently just launched. But the eventual goal, I would say, is to eliminate checks. And other markets have done it. In the Dutch Caribbean, they've eliminated checks. And in the Cayman and the Bahamas Islands, who also implemented a digital check exchange project, have also transitioned now to check elimination. And I think eventually that's where we want the payment system to go.
The Bankers Association official says public education is in their plans as the new protocol will take time as people migrate to the digital environment.
There's still physical checks, but when they come into the branch, it changes how the banks exchange the checks. So from a consumer perspective, nothing really changes for you. You still have a physical check which you would need to deposit, whether it's over the counter, through the ATM, or via night deposit if you're a business customer and you have cash and other stuff coming in through the night deposit. But it's the way the banks clear and verify the checks that what has been digitized as opposed to a physical exchange.
The department responsible for the collection of a significant part of government's revenue has a new home at the Leroy Trotman Customs House. Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Barbados Port Inc., Peter Odell, says $12 million has been spent to renovate the 32,000 square foot of commercial space at the Bridgetown Port. He says the facility now boasts an environmentally friendly ethos in which business can be transacted in comfort. Odell says the new facility will play a pivotal role in helping the department to execute its mandate and new ideas. Time now for tonight's trading report.
In Jamaica, Pulse Investments Limited, with 5,951,065 units, was the volume leader, followed by Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares and Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited. In Trinidad and Tobago, First Caribbean International Bank Limited was the volume leader, with 38,614 shares changing hands for a value of Trinidad and Tobago $263,337.94, followed by Massey Holdings Limited. And here in Barbados, Goddard Enterprises Limited Fund was the volume leader, trading 2,373 shares at Barbados $2.96 each, and they were followed by Cave Shepherd and Company Limited.
We're back with more sports. Anne-Marie.
And I start with cricket this time. West Indies closed day 3 of the first test against South Africa, trailing by 212 runs with 6 first innings wickets in hand. Resuming this morning on 3:44 for 8 at the Queen's Park Oval in Trinidad and Tobago. The South Africans were eventually bowled out for 357. Joma Warrican ended with 4 for 69, Jaden Seals 3 for 67, and Kemar Roach 2 for 53. In reply, the West Indies went to stumps on 145 for 4. Casey Carty has top scores so far with 42, while there were 35 for skipper Craig Brathwaite and his opening partner Mikhail Louis. Day 4 is set to start at 9:30 a.m. So we go back over to some more Olympic news. Jamaica finished 5th as the USA won the women's 400-meter relay final. The U.S. got gold in the season's best 41.78 seconds. Great Britain got the silver in 41.85, while the bronze went to Germany in the season's best 41.97. Jamaica also ran their fastest time of the year of 42.29 seconds. And Canada are the gold medal winners of the men's 4x100-meter relay. They took the 4x1 in a season's best time of 37.50 seconds. Second place went to South Africa in an area record time of 37.57, while Great Britain took the bronze in a season's best 37.61. The United States were disqualified. And Pearson, that's it for sports.
The grass, of course, with the Barbadian connection.
Oh,
well
yes.
done to Canada. Thank you, Anne-Marie. We're right back after this break. Well, that's our time tonight. Thank you for spending it with us. I'm Pearson Bowen. For the crew, to all of you, good night. Have a wonderful weekend.